We're going to call to order the April the 21st, 2021 Community Relations Commission meeting. We're going to start with a roll call.
Dr. Cade?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Here. Oh.
Mr. Murphy? Mr. Murphy, you're muted.
I'm sorry, present.
Mr. Sutphin?
Here.
Mr. Williams? Ms. Esposito?
Present.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to ask for approval of the minutes from December the 9th, 2020.
I move that we approve the minutes from December 9th, 2020.
Second.
Second.
Let's take the vote.
Ms. Cade?
Present. Yes. Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Which Mr. Harris?
We'll start with Mr. Anthony Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Blake Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Sutphin?
Yes.
Ms. Esposito?
Yes.
At this time, we have the electing of the officers. So who wants to make a motion? Let's put the president, the chairperson's position on the table at this time. Would anyone like to make a motion? No? Yes, I will make a motion. I can't make a motion. Somebody make a motion.
I would like to make a motion if I could. I have a motion that Anthony Harris for the position of president and Taylor for vice president.
Can I second that or can I not?
I would not accept the position of vice president. I've got a lot on my plate right now. I've got a little one running around, and even making these meetings is a little bit of a challenge right now. So I thank you, but I would decline that, please.
So we'll stick to the president. The motion is on the table for Anthony Harris as the president. I'm going to second that motion by Mr. Darryl Murphy. Okay. We're going to take the vote now. Any questions? Any questions or conversations regarding the motion for Anthony Harris as president? Okay, we'll take the roll call.
Ms. Cade?
Yes.
Mr. Anthony Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Blake Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Sutphin?
Yes.
Ms. Esposito?
Yes.
Okay. Can we nominate somebody in their absence? Can we?
You know, I guess we can.
So I want to nominate Dr. Cruz to continue as the vice chair.
I second that nomination.
Any questions or conversations regarding the motion on the table?
Dr. Cade, I am unsure if she needs to be here to accept that, so we could always table it for the next meeting as well.
I think we should do that for the June meeting. We'll table it for the June 9th meeting.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mackenzie. Okay, so at this time, we'd like an update on the city plans from our city manager, Eric Whoopster.
Hold on one second.
Okay.
Yes, I have updates on city plans, but can I, through the chair, say just a few words before I dive into both the downtown plan and then the impending south side plan?
Absolutely.
So first of all, I just want to thank you for your tenure as the chair of the CRC. I also want to thank you for the impact that you have made during your time with Sandusky City Schools and in the community. And while I was sad to see that you were going to be heading to Delaware on behalf of Sandusky, I was excited for two reasons. One was to see you continue to grow in your own career, and two were your comments that Sandusky will always be a home away from home for you, and we will hold you to that. Do not be a stranger, because you have made a big impact, and the schools have been such an important partner to the city, and they're such an important part of the community. And so, Dr. Cade, we wish you really well, and please don't be a stranger, and congratulations on your new opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Wooster. Thank you, colleagues.
And so with that, I can speak a little bit to the downtown master plan and then the south side master plan. And I will speak generally about both topics, but I will also try to focus on the mission of this committee and ways that I think this committee can help us to accomplish goals both for the downtown and the south side neighborhood, as well as the entire city. So starting with the downtown master plan, really that work builds on the accomplishments that we've all seen kind of take place downtown over the last several years. A lot of those accomplishments came out of the Bicentennial Vision Plan, which was a citywide master plan that we did throughout 2015 and adopted at the beginning of 2016. And when we look back at the last 5 years in downtown Sandusky, things that we're really proud of are that there was over $100 million of investment in the downtown. We were able to move our city hall back into the downtown, and in doing so, we took the 3 largest vacant buildings right at the gateway to downtown and Columbus Avenue and helped to restore those, not only for our offices, but for also 18 new apartments in the city, as well as 3 new commercial storefronts. And we think that has been really helpful. We attracted a university presence into downtown for the first time in a long time through a partnership with Bowling Green State University and Cedar Fair. And the students in that program will be completing their first year of studies very soon. Those apartments are leasing up. That's an over $15 million investment that we think will continue to pay dividends over time. And we've already had some conversations with BGSU about their desire to grow their presence in downtown Sandusky, which we think is a great benefit to all of Sandusky's residents and students to have better access to higher education. We also worked to revitalize our lakefront. You know, part of the reason that I wanted to come back to Sandusky, and I think if you asked anybody both in Sandusky and from outside of Sandusky, their perspectives on its assets and its advantages, everyone would say, you know, it's the lake, stupid, or, playing off the economy, stupid as to what, people vote the way they vote. And I think that we have an incredible asset in Lake Erie and in Sandusky Bay, and our downtown in particular, with its historic building stock that sits on the bay, overlooking Johnson's Island, overlooking the islands, overlooking Cedar Point, overlooking the coal docks, is a really special place. But because we were historically such an industrial city, we had kind of built up where the back of our buildings faced the waterfront, and the pier itself, the Jackson Street Pier, which sits in the center of our downtown, is this beautiful large piece of land that really juts out into the bay, had historically been used for distribution purposes, and then it transitioned into a parking lot for ferry services. It had such a higher and better use that could allow it to continue to play that role, but also be a real gathering place for the community and a special way to for Sanduskians and others to interact with the waterfront. And so we undertook that project, which was controversial at times, but we're able to successfully do it. And in addition to those sort of 3 larger city-led projects, we've seen over 40 businesses open in the downtown. We've had folks like Rick and Megan Hogarty really create a real footprint in the downtown. We've seen a wide diversity of business owners, create a presence in the downtown. And we're just really proud of the progress that we made over the last several years. But we know, and we have heard, that not everyone in Sandusky feels connected to the downtown, feels comfortable in the downtown. And so as we embark on implementing our new downtown master plan, one of our goals, and I said this actually at the opening of the Jackson Street Pier just last year, is we need to make sure that this waterfront and this downtown and this pier, that every Sanduskian knows that this is their public space and that they feel ownership of it and they feel comfortable with it. And so one of the ways that we're doing that, particularly at the pier, is you're going to start to see, and you're already seeing, much more of our recreation department's programming taking place at the pier in the downtown, because we want Sandusky youth to grow up knowing that they have that ownership of the pier. And so we're going to try to be more active and diverse programming. One of the things that you're going to see, and we want the CRC to be a partner and also to hold us accountable to make sure that the style of that programming, the content of that programming, the work that we're doing is reflective of the diversity that you see in Sandusky. So that's one thing that you'll see is one of our top 3 goals of that downtown master plan, is to provide programming on a year-round basis, most of which we want to be free to the public. Let's make sure that the entire community feels that that programming is for them, whether it's a recreation program provided by the city or it's a concert. And Mackenzie and I were just part of a dialogue today, and this is not to say that country music can't be inclusive and for everybody, but some of our larger foundations wanted to help us pay for programming to kick off the new stage that we got. And it was recommended, hey, maybe we should bring in a country band. They're really popular. And we kind of pushed back and said, we will have country music on the pier, but we think that the first big concert on the pier should be something that is really reflective of Sandusky, and let's figure out what that can be. And they understood that implicitly. So those are the kind of things that are small in nature, but that will add up over time. In addition to that, you're going to see us continue to put resources into bringing more small businesses and more residences into the downtown. And again, we want to make sure, and we already have some diversity, and a lot of our entrepreneurs have been very impressed in Sandusky about the strength of the minority business community. That is something we want to continue to accelerate. And as we talk about what we're doing, we're actually looking at our new strategic plan as we begin to do it, is can we have accelerated incentives for minority businesses and female-owned businesses, so that incentives will be available to everyone, but potentially additional incentives could be available to incentivize those who have historically not had access to banking in the same way throughout time. And so we want to undo some of that systemic injustice and really declare Sandusky open for business, particularly for those who are trying to overcome those historical hurdles. So stay tuned for that. And that is something that's important, and that really builds on, and I know Commissioner Harris has been an important part of the Minority Business Enterprise Group that meets with ECADEC, and they were able to provide some small grants for minority businesses. We want to build on that over the course of next year and expand that programming. So that'll be an important part of the downtown. And then we also want to continue to add anchors to the downtown. One of the big projects that you'll see in the plan is that we'd like to bring an anchor hotel and conference center to the downtown. And we've already begun talks on locations and with partners. We have a market study that shows that is feasible. It will be complicated, but it is doable. And we think that that will support so many of the small businesses downtown. So those are some of the highlights of the downtown. But again, we want to make sure that the programming is diverse and welcome and inclusive. We want to make sure that every person in Sandusky feels comfortable, that knows it's their downtown, and that the business owners that are investing and succeeding in the downtown look and feel a lot like the city of Sandusky. So I'm happy to answer any questions specifically on the downtown.
Yes, Mr. Woopser.
Yes.
I have a question. Now, initially, I was a bit skeptical of the revamping of the Jackson Street Pier. Since it has occurred, I have jumped on board 100%. My wife and I go down there several times. A week. My concern is parking. Once the tourist season opens up, where is the parking going to be down on the pier? And secondly, you're talking about a concert scenario. We on the Community Relations Commission would like to take part in some of the decisions that are made on what groups, what type of entertainment is presented downtown, so that we can relay that to the community and get their feedback on the types and genres of music and entertainment that are presented to the community downtown. I know this is not simply a tourist thing, it's for the city.
Absolutely.
And so as a Community Relations Commission, you have all our emails. I would like to be able to participate in some of this decision-making as regards to what type and genre of entertainment and activities take place downtown.
So I will answer both of those questions, Chairman Harris. Are we officially chairman yet? Should I don't want to disrespect.
Not yet,
okay.
Not till the meeting is
so
adjourned.
I'll figure out. So incoming Chairman-elect Harris, I will address both those issues. And I think those are both really good questions. And so I'm going to actually take them in the opposite order that you asked them. I'm going to start with the programming first. I love the idea of the CRC playing an important role. And so just to give you a sense of some of the programming that will take place this year. And we intended to start programming the pier last year, but we're unable to do so because of COVID-19. We announced just a few weeks ago, with the support of the Dorn Foundation, the Erie County Community Foundation, Mylander Foundation, Firelands Regional Medical Center, Savista, am I missing any of our, in the Bicentennial Commission, I may be missing one key sponsor, that we were buying a stage, an LED movie screen, and we were able to bring, I think we're probably going to rent this, but for like an 8-week period through the winter, an ice skating rink that will come down to the pier for community programming. And we are going to focus on a few things that Mackenzie is actually playing a leading role and has been playing a leading role since her time as Bicentennial coordinator. One of which is going to be a weekly movie night that will probably start after the 4th of July. And so I think that's a great opportunity to make sure those movies are geared towards a wide and diverse audience. And then we're going to have a Thursday night concert night. And those 2 nights particularly are geared towards locals, you know, Tuesday and Thursday. And of course, tourists would be welcome, but that is designed to be free programming meant to bring locals into the downtown community. And the answer to that question, and Mackenzie can think about how to formalize this, we would love your feedback on the type of program that we want to do. We've been brainstorming. We were just brainstorming with Commissioner Harris last week as to local bands, making sure that there's wide varieties of types of music. And we know that this is a good group to bounce those things off of, and we can't wait to do it. In addition to that, you'll see some bigger events, some of which will be done by partners, some of which will be done with the city as a partner. But as there are opportunities for that feedback, we may not play as a direct of a role in all of that programming, but we certainly want to make sure, as we talk to the Community Foundation and others, that they know that they should be thinking about representativeness and diversity, and that the CRC would like to play a role in helping us come to some of those decisions. So the answer to that is absolutely yes. And then the other event that takes place on Saturdays, which has historically happened, is Peer Pressure, P-I-E-R pressure, and that's free fitness events that are done by local gyms. And one of those is Eric Jordan, Next Level Fitness, who's been a really great partner to the city over the years. So no, that's available too, and that's a great, healthy activity for people. But we welcome your feedback on the programming. We cannot wait to start programming. We think it's a really wonderful way to celebrate Sandusky's cultural heritage and its diversity.
Yes, I understand that, but my question is, how is this information being disseminated to the Community Relations Commission? How are we getting the information that will allow us to provide you with input and feedback and allow us to present it to the community and see what they think? How will this be disseminated to us?
I think what we can do, and not to get ahead of Mackenzie, and bear with us just a little bit this year, because we just found out we can do this programming this year. And so we have to hurry to get a schedule together. But I think, Mackenzie, if we could potentially put together some type of a simple survey component that we can distribute to the CRC and ask them to help us distribute to the community as to what people would like to see for concerts, for movies. And we can, we'll keep it simple, 3 to 5 questions, like what type of acts would you like to see? What type of movies would you like to see? And we'll take that feedback. And again, one of the things that upset us, and we want the CRC to be our partner in overcoming this, is we did not get enough. We had 800 survey respondents for the downtown survey, and there was not a lot of diversity in it. So that tells me we had a diverse steering committee, but for whatever reason that didn't trickle into the information getting out there and being broadly distributed. We won't make that mistake again. We will be much more intentional about not just hoping that a diverse steering committee will lead to diverse responses. We will proactively work with the CRC to do it. And Mackenzie, if we can start by doing a survey with that, we'll get that out there, and we'll do our best to incorporate that feedback as we schedule those programs for 2021.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. And then as to parking, so 2 things. One is parking on the pier itself. There are actually no fewer short-term parking spaces on the pier now than there were before we reconstructed the pier. We prioritized that entire northern edge of the pier on the perimeter to be designed for local short-term parking. So no one has enough time to park there, get on a ferry, go to the islands for the day and come back. Those are short-term spaces. And just so you know, we monitored those parking spaces on the pier for an entire year before we reconstructed it. And at no time did our short-term parking spaces have more than 25 cars parked them at any time. And there are 35 short-term parking spaces on the perimeter of the pier. So we maintained And this is important because not everybody knows this. And there's some people who are in the business of trying to make sure people don't know what I feel like, or distorting the information that's out there. There are not fewer short-term parking spaces in Jackson Street Pier now than there were pre-construction. And I've been monitoring it. I'm out there a few times a week too, Mr. Harris. And I can tell you that pier is busy with short-term parking, but it's never overflowing with short-term parking. So I think we got that number just about right. And
Agreed.
then it's the long-term parking, which there are fewer spaces. But we also monitored that, and part of that is by design, just so you know, is we made a decision that the best and highest use of the public's waterfront was not long-term parking for people that were going to be at Kelly's Island or Put in Bay, but that we wanted more of that space to be held aside for the public to use and to enjoy, whether they're on foot or on bike. And I'm sure you've witnessed this. There's a wider diversity of ages that are on the pier. There's a wider diversity of races that we're seeing on the pier. There's a wider diversity of people that are showing up on foot and on bike and in addition to their car. And so it is working. And why we felt comfortable allowing that land to function as an active public space as opposed to parking geared towards tourists who weren't even tourists in Sandusky was because we knew we had underutilized parking in the rest of downtown, particularly at the Erie County parking garage. I look over Washington Row right now, 80 spaces sit in Washington Row. Those spaces predominantly sit busy all week, Monday through Friday, and then sit empty every weekend and on evenings. And so those are 80 spaces that when we counted those, you can go out there on a Wednesday or Thursday night, and of those 80 spaces on both sides of that block, there are maybe 10 cars. And we want people, we want locals to be able to find their short-term parking, but we want others to come down and to park in the county parking garage, to park at the Jackson Street parking lot, to park on Washington Road, to park on Wayne Street, to park on Market Street, and then to walk to their ferry. Because guess what happens when they walk to their ferry from there? And by the way, they have to walk like a half a mile once they get to Put in Bay to get to the first closest bar at Put in Bay. So they're going to walk on the other end of this trip. We want them to have to walk by our bars and restaurants. We want to have them walk by our retailers. And when we do programming on the pier, part of why we put it there as opposed to the Sandusky Bay Pavilion is because we want somebody who's coming down for a free rec program or a free concert to also have to walk by our businesses. Because guess what? Maybe they'll support a local business. Maybe they'll put the dollar in the pocket of a local person. So all of this is by design. We're going to monitor it closely. And as our downtown becomes more popular, which is something that we all want, we're going to see more parking congestion. And we have to find ways to manage that. But what we can't do is slow down the vibrancy of the downtown so that people have ample parking for a downtown that isn't working. There's a famous quote that Yogi Berra said. He said, that place is so busy, nobody goes there anymore. And I think that's kind of what we're working towards here is, if what we're doing downtown is going to work, it will get tougher to park, but it'll get tougher to park because we're a successful city, you know. And so, but we'll balance that, we'll manage it, and I hope that answers your question. But we're talking about parking all the time. We'll make decisions quickly and nimbly if we have to make changes, but we feel like we have enough to grow for the next few years, and we'll keep a really close eye on it.
Well, it sounds like a viable plan to me. I appreciate you guys taking the time to do that study and taking into consideration the local businesses that will be impacted by parking from tourists that, like you say, are not even going to be tourists in Sandusky, but allow the people that are going to the island to partake in the things and offerings that the city itself has downtown.
Yeah.
I think it's a viable plan, well thought out.
Well, thank you, sir. We really appreciate it. We take it seriously. And again, and I'll tell you, I had a conversation with another one of our commissioners earlier this week. We're not going to get everything right all the time, but what we're also not going to do is just maintain a status quo because we're afraid to make mistakes. And so, you know, and the CRC is here to hold us accountable. Our city commissioners are here to hold us accountable, but bear with us because we are going to take some risks because we're going to invest in the potential of Sandusky, all of Sandusky. And so,
well, Mr. Woofser, going back to Yogi Berra, if you bat 10 times and fail 70% of the time, you're still going to get a multi-million-dollar contract.
Exactly. You're an all-star with those numbers, especially in this, the age after the home run era, the post-steroid era of baseball. 300 is a really good average again. So that's downtown, and I really appreciate you guys listening to that.
I didn't want to interject one thing. I did
Sure,
want
please.
I wanted to really compliment you all on such a comprehensive approach to expanding opportunities. And I just wanted to digress back to the conversation around systemic injustice and historical hurdles. And I know I sent you guys an email, you and Mackenzie, an email earlier about some of the work that we're trying to do to increase diversity. I think because of the historical hurdles and the systemic injustices, sometimes we have to go a little further. So I talked about possibly doing advertisement on the radio station that is frequent by a lot of African Americans in this community. And I'm talking about WNZN Power 89.1. If we know that we consistently have had a lag in participation and we have a viable vehicle to reach, to have a further reach, then when do we make that investment to sort of kind of overcome some of these systemic injustices and these historical hurdles if we're not getting the kind of participation? So that's the reason why I made the suggestion, not because I'm on the radio, but because I know so many people in this community listen to the radio station. And if we're trying to get diversity in our police department, that's a viable pathway. If we're trying to get African Americans in this community to be involved in some of the work that the city is doing around planning, that is a viable vehicle. And so I never received a response from you all around that inquiry. And so as we continue to have these conversations about who's engaging in our surveys, as we're developing our plans, I put a viable opportunity on the table that I know that Mr. President Murphy can speak to, and that Mr. Anthony Harris can speak to, because these are vehicles that we use in our interactions, whether it's the NAACP or other interventions and groups that we're involved in. And I will tell you that personally, as I walk around, so many African Americans say, "Hey, Dr. Vi, I heard you on the radio." It is a viable option. And it's really the demographics that you reach is really that middle-aged person who is actively involved and contributing to the community in a positive way, because it is a inspirational station. So, but they have kids that, younger people and generations also. So again, I'm going to put that on the table. And sometimes when we're trying to expand opportunities, we have to walk the walk and not just talk the talk. And so I'm going to put that on the table for conversation as an option for this commission.
And so through the chair, I did receive that, and I apologize that you didn't get a response to it. It is something that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And we have two things that are happening now, and this is, none of this is meant to be an excuse, but it's an acknowledgement that, we have gone from 253 staff at the city of Sandusky pre-pandemic to about 218 as of a week ago. Mm-hmm. And so some of those casualties were our neighborhood outreach coordinator, our second HR professional, and what I will say is the good news that we have today is that we're bringing a community outreach coordinator back by the end of this month, who will have a broad role in engaging the community. And it will be Talon Floor, who was in that position before, who's a Sandusky High School graduate. We're welcoming Talon back. We're excited about that. And then in addition to that, the job description for the new HR specialist, which will work with our HR manager, has diversity, equity, inclusion as one of the bullet points for that position. And so, and Mackenzie being here, who's very active along with a few others in our social media committee, I think we can put our heads together, but we are working to prioritize how we can reach locals and minorities to take these jobs, because the good news is we're not going to stay at 218. We may not get back to 253 right away, but we're probably going to make somewhere between 20 and 30 hires, not even counting what we'll make to replace vacancies that come up over the next 18 to 24 months. And I am setting a goal. I've talked to city commissioners. I've talked to Commissioner Harris. I've talked to Commissioner Twine. I've talked to other commissioners who this is a big priority for. We want to make sure those 20 or 30 hires that we make over the next 2 years are representative of the community. Starting obviously with bringing Talon's position back. I would love to find, I can't guarantee that we will, but we've done some outreach. I'd love to find some diversity in that HR position because I think that could make a big difference in change in mindset and culture. I can't guarantee you we'll get there, but it's something that is a possibility that we're working on, and that will be true of every position, and so we will, and what I can say is we will get your feedback, because I agree, I think that we can say we're making our best effort, but if we don't change the way that we're trying to reach people, whether it's through relationships or finding people where they're at, we're not, and I think everybody means well, but if everybody's from the same neighborhood, and if everybody's from the same church, and if everybody's from the same this or that, and we talk to each other and we say, and I've seen this on boards, and I've written about this in op-eds from last year, where, most of the boards in this area are all white, and they all want to diversify, and they all get together once a year and nominate their own nominating committee for governance from their all-white board, and they say, gosh, we try really hard to find diverse people, but we can't seem to find them, but it's because they're only talking to each other, you know what I mean? And so your suggestion is a really good one, that we're well-meaning, but if we're not finding people where they're at, whether it's a radio station or their church or their neighborhood, then we're not going to get them. And so let us talk about it and figure it out. And as the chairman,
Eric,
yeah, go ahead, Mr. Harris.
Eric, have you ever thought about
something?
approaching President Murphy regarding using the NAACP's resources and recruiting of minority candidates for the positions?
We've worked with Mr. Murphy on a few instances. I think we could deepen that relationship. I know that we've forwarded him for things and asked him for advice or assistance in forwarding, but I think Daryl would agree, while we've made good efforts, that both of us could improve on those efforts, and it's something that we'd love to do more of and deepen, both with the CRC, the NAACP, and anyone else who's willing to roll up their sleeves and work with us on it.
If I could, can I say something? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes,
hear you.
Daryl.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Just a couple of things. First of all, Eric, to your point, yeah, we work together, but I would like to just concur with Dr. Cade as far as the outreach, how we can get a diverse community to give us our feedback for the city. I think that radio station would be a great point. I know we like using our local radio station, but a lot of our people that look like me listen to WZZN 89.1. So I think that's a good place where we could start. And also it would be a good buy for the city of Sandusky to invite people from Lorraine to come into our city. So that would work on twofold. So I think that's something we definitely need to look in and to use that radio station as well. I commend your decision for the first band. I know you were talking about that earlier, to sway away from country music. I like all music per se. I think that gives the impression, because a lot of residents in Sandusky, like you stated before, feel that the peer is not inclusive for them. So I thank you for your outreach, that you're going to reach out to them and try to make that not a reality, more of a myth.
And we mean that,
and that started that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, you're fine. But if we had started with a country band, I think that gives the impression that I told you so. This peer is not inclusive for all of Sandusky. So I commend your decision to back up on that one and get a band that, and a lot of, Black Americans like country music, but here in Sandusky, I don't think that would have been a good idea. So I think you did the right decision on calling that one off. But far as I just got a message just the other day talking about hiring in the city of Sandusky, really talking about City Hall, and I've reached out to you before. We've always had an open door policy, and I've spoke very highly of you, but they feel that we don't have enough representatives of us in City Hall. And so that is something that you said you're going to start working on. We can try to find the right people with the right skill sets to fill those positions. So I think we're going to have to look out of Sandusky as well. Just like another city is stealing our Dr. K from us, we're going to have to steal somebody
Steal her back.
from us. Well, yeah, we have to steal her back, when the position comes available. But I think we need to have an outreach for other people, just not here in the city, to fill those positions. So I'm anxious to hear how we're going with the searches for the other positions. NAACP, whatever we can do to help, we will help. But it's important that we, and I think you're doing a great job down there. I think the city is doing a great job. I commend everyone on the staff. Mackenzie, I'm glad that Taylor's coming back. I always say Taylor. Do I say his name wrong? It's how do you pronounce his name?
Taylor.
it's Taylor, right?
Taylor. Okay, I'm glad he's coming back. He's done a great job there before, so I'm looking forward for him coming back. But we just need to see some more faces down there. You know, Sandusky is a very diverse city. I think we're going in the right direction, but we definitely want to get people to buy in to what you're doing down here in Sandusky. So anything that we can help, we will do. And glad to see our chief here, Chief Oliver. How are you today? I've got to set up a meeting with you later on. Got some things that we need to discuss as well. So I'll wait till you're on for that one. Okay.
I appreciate it. Sorry, I was double booked. We were actually going through the physical agility test for some new hires. So I was trying to manage that and listen to you guys from my phone, and then my phone went dead. So I'm back.
We're glad you're back.
All right.
So Eric, we will work on that. So thank you very much.
Absolutely, and thank you for all of those comments. And I just want to say, we are proud of some of the success we made. Obviously, Talon, and Talon is someone that I noticed on the Charter Review Commission. And so I think this is why it's important that our boards and commissions are more diverse, which I know Mackenzie's worked really hard and the commission's worked really hard, and I've worked really hard to get more diverse candidates in all of our boards and commissions. Because I first met Talon when he was serving on Charter Review. He's actually a senior at Ohio State. Saw him as someone that would be a great fit with the city, worked with him to develop a position. Very similar story with Condra Frisbee. Have worked hard to recruit diverse directors, and Justin Harris, unfortunately, money called for him and kids in college. And we love Justin. We're still friends and use him from time to time. Rick Wilcox, obviously, was a great fire chief for a few years and then retired. I think Chief Warzek and now Chief Oliver have done a really good job of diversifying the police department and departments like our code division. We've done a great job, but it isn't across the board. It isn't enough. And again, it's got to become systematic. It can't be me or a director singling out one person and finding a place for them. It has to be natural. Those pipelines through the NAACP, through the CRC, through the local communities and churches have to be aware so that when a posting becomes available, it's disseminated both locally and broadly. And so we will work on that. We will improve. And while we're proud of some of the progress we've made, we know it is not enough. And we will use the CRC and the NAACP both as important partners in making those efforts and hold us accountable. You know, we should really be reporting back on, you know, there should be benchmarks as to where we're at today. I'd love to look back and say where we were 5 years ago, because I do think we've improved over the last 5 years, and maybe we can find that, but where we were 5 years ago, where we're at today, and then year by year, how we're doing from there. And Commissioner Twine has said this, and I agree in it completely, is that you should hire the best person, regardless of race or gender, for every single position. But when you look back after 10 or 20 hires, and if none of them are diverse, something's broken, and you got to figure out what that is. You know what I mean? And that's kind of been our motto. And again, I think we've made some strides, but we're not there yet. I can tell you there's very healthy pressure from commissioners like Blake and Naomi and others to get better. And the good news is there doesn't have to be, that pressure's healthy because there's no reluctance on staff's part to make this happen. We just all have to roll up our sleeves and do that hard work. So thank you for your kind words, and please do partner with us and hold us accountable month by month if you don't see us reaching out. Yeah.
If I could
commit to something so simple
I
as.
could ask that question if I may, real quick.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Taylor. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just saying, could we commit to something so simple as every time there is a position available, could you maybe shoot an email to Mr. Murphy, and could he disseminate that through like an email chain?
Yes,
and if we did that every single time, I mean, that would rectify some of it. You know, it's a simple
I
step.
think we've been doing a little bit better job of that, but we'll send it not only to Daryl, but to the entire CRC. And we've, you know, and Mackenzie, if we can work out how we get a system for that with HR, it should be like clockwork. It just be like, hey, this is it, this is it. And again, I will look into some alternative advertising. We have a limited budget for where we advertise positions, but if we can do some targeted outreach, I'm sure it's affordable to advertise in the local radio. We'll do some of that, and then we'll try to measure through our applications whether we're getting results with that and build on it from there.
If I may for a minute.
Please.
I guess.
Mr. Murphy, I'm still open to that meeting next month too with the NAACP. Just let me know where and when I need to be there. Send me the link. I'm there.
Okay, I'll definitely send the link, and we'll talk about it before the meeting, because I know I don't want you to get blindsided with a couple things. So there's some
You're all
issues
right.
that we can talk. Okay.
I appreciate that. So you guys are aware what the police department's been doing, trying to recruit. We've gone to every police academy between Cleveland and Toledo and south into Huron County. So we hit the big cities. We were in through Lorain. We want to stay as diverse, and we want to be as inclusive, and we want to represent the community the best way we can. It's a tough situation right now. We didn't just go to the radio. We've been on National Testing Network. We had a social media blitz. We've had flyers out there, and we've had very good officers out recruiting. So whatever anybody in the group can do to help, we're here. We want to make it the best department it is and continue on. So whatever we can do.
Chief, I noticed some people from the church that I attend in Lorraine have said that they've noticed some recruitment procedures from Sandusky Police over in Lorraine County. Oh, nice haircut, by the way.
Appreciate
And
that. I don't
so
have hair talking. Yeah, I
it
like
is
yours
reaching
too.
out there.
Yeah.
We really are. We're trying. I mean, listen, it's a different situation right now. I think everybody knows with that, but we are going to do everything we can do to stay where we're at locally and make it the best department it can be. And you know, it wasn't just Lorraine, it was Cleveland, it was Toledo. We made it a point to hit every police academy that we had within basically a 100-mile radius and put it out there. And, you know, thanks to our officers, we had a couple people from Lorraine apply that they're at that academy, and they made it a point to tell us that when they were talking. So it was good.
Yeah.
We'll keep trying.
I think that's important. We're going to
Good
have
job.
you on
Thank you.
Police Oliver, when I have the students set up, you know, the interview that they're going to interview you probably the middle of May or early June before I leave. But I did want to also just say that, you know, as we talk about diversity, it's not just limited to race. It's also inclusive of gender and sexual orientation, you know, so we want to make sure that we're not narrowing our scope and excluding other people, that the whole conversation is not, should not just be limited to race, that gender, sexual orientation, religion, all right, you know, religious practices are all a part of what we want to see in terms of reflecting the diversity of our community. And then first and foremost, competency first, right? You know, at the end of the day, people have to be competent in the roles that we put them in order to advance the viability of our city. So I do want to commend you guys for your continued effort, and any challenge that we put in front of you is just to challenge your thinking and to ensure that, you know, we are bringing different perspectives to the table, right? And, you know, we're going to give you our best thinking in terms of our experiences from where we're serving in the community. And that's why we're a commission, because we all bring different perspectives, different experiences to the table. And that's what makes us better, and that's what makes us stronger. So thank you. I think that was a very robust conversation. Ms. Esposito, did you have anything that you wanted to say?
No, I think it's a great idea just to shoot those opportunities out to the CRC, because, I mean, you just don't know the connections people have and, you know, where those things will land. Like, for example, like my mom's the guidance counselor at Sandusky High School. So I sometimes send things to her, and they obviously have like a great vocational program there. So you just really never know like where these things will go. And I think it's good just to be transparent and make sure everyone knows what's going on.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Mr. Green, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of touch on what Jared said. We're giving our entrance exam. We just opened it up a couple days ago, and they got from till May 27th. That's when the testing period ends. We're going to the National Testing Network, and we got our flyers out. We got social media, and we'll get it out on the radio, and we'll get the flyers out to anywhere we can, churches, fitness places, church, and libraries, anywhere, grocery stores, just to get it out there, just to, and like what Mr. Whoopser said, just got to get out there and make connections with people, and that way we can get a little more, you know, diversity and help us, you know, get a little more diverse candidates.
Thank you. Okay.
Miss Esposito.
Yes, sir.
I understand you joined my nephew's firm, but is there an avenue that you guys could use your resources in helping us to recruit?
Yeah, I can try my best. Are you talking about Justin?
Yes, I am.
Yep. Yeah, I'll be working closely with Justin. So whatever we can do to assist.
Especially since Justin is already familiar with Sandusky inner workings, And if you guys could help us through the recruitment process through your firm there in Cleveland, that would be another venue that we could use as a recruiting tool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's a good
Yeah,
idea.
we have a firm in Cleveland and Toledo, so.
It's great.
Well, that's good. Thank you very much.
Well, I think we've had some robust conversation here tonight. I'm gonna move on. Did we talk about the South Side yet, Eric?
No, I didn't get into that because I took so much time. I can be brief, but I do think it's important to say a few words about the South Side. And I know Dr. Cade, we've chatted with you, and we really want the schools to play a leadership role. Particularly, we want the students of the schools and the youth of Sandusky to play a leadership role. We've begun active conversations with community leaders and residents and property owners in the South Side. And so some of the priorities for us coming out of that plan, before I get into the physical priorities, one is we want it to be a community-led and a stakeholder-led process. We know that the city schools are an important stakeholder in the South Side. We know that the hospital or Firelands Health System is an important player over there. We know there are many churches. I know Commissioner Harris is helping us set up with Pastor Johnson at the New Jerusalem Church to talk about a role that they can play in this. We've talked to a few other churches. So we have already, through our community development director and Jonathan Holliday and Tondra Frisbee, and we'll be adding Talon into the mix of that when he comes back on, have been slowly meeting with individuals in the neighborhood, putting our thoughts together as to what this process can look like. We think we want to wait until fall to start the process because we think that helps us accomplish two things. One is it allows the schools to play a bigger role and the students of the schools to play a bigger role because they'll be in class, which we think will be important. And then two, it allows us to get a little further from the pandemic and allows us to get those vaccination rates up a little bit because we want to do as much of this in person as possible. You know, these I've gotten comfortable with Teams and Zoom meetings, but we know that not everyone, and particularly in some of our neighborhoods where we have to make the deepest interventions, are they as comfortable? So we really want to make sure we can do as much in person in the neighborhood as possible. So stay tuned on that. Our goal is to get an RFQ out by early summer, get a firm pick to be a partner to us on that by midsummer. And once they're in place, really kind of build those steering committee of students, steering committee of stakeholders, and then hit the ground running with it come fall. Some of the things that we'll be looking at, and it's been talked about recently, is we've become a pretty large property owner in the MacArthur Park area. And just so folks know, because there are some questions about that, that's because we want to work with enough scale over there to make a significant investment in Churchwell Park, which anchors that neighborhood, to revitalize the park, and then use the revitalization of that park and more significant connections to Sandusky City Schools through their new 3 through 6 and their middle school and their high school campus there to create a strong neighborhood with a great park, easy access to schools and other amenities, so that we can take those significant amount of lots that we have and find a builder that's going to help us build quality, affordable housing geared towards families in that neighborhood. And we're not looking to acquire everything. We've made relationships with people like Jamarcus Hampton, who've been investing in properties over there. We also want to help people like Jamarcus to add to and invest in their own portfolio to rehab what can be rehabbed. Part of the challenge is that a lot of the housing over there was built as worker housing a long time ago and hasn't been well invested in over time. And so it's really difficult to bring it back to the right standard. But we do not want to drive anyone from that neighborhood. We want to help build up the people in that neighborhood. And one of the ways that we want to do that is through targeted housing investment, targeted investment in Churchwell Park. We also want to look at American Cran and that site for recreation types investments. We want to finally answer the question, is this the right location? Is this the right time for Sandusky to have a community center or a rec center? And again, just beef up the conversation with the schools and really listen and hear from the residents of that neighborhood, from the youth of Sandusky as to what they want from their neighborhood and their city. And we're really looking forward to this. And with the stimulus dollars that we just received, you know, we're trying to earmark some of that. So once the plan is finished, we can hit the ground running and begin to implement right away some of the recommendations of the plan. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but we're very, very excited about the South Side.
Mr. Woobser, there is a homeowners association that's affiliated with MacArthur Park. I know they recently had a meeting at the Acorn Ministries on Cleveland Road here. Have you considered approaching some of these associations about their input on the revitalization of the South Side and MacArthur Park?
So we've talked to residents. I don't know if I've talked, is that Mrs. Ashburn? Is she involved with the homeowners association?
Yeah, Ms. Ashburn.
Ms. Ashburn, sorry. We did do a call with her specifically and talk to her about some of her ideas. So Jonathan and I can probably follow up with her and see if we can get an invite to meet with the broader group as well. But so yes, we absolutely, homeowners associations, church groups, nonprofits, businesses, residents, schools, hospital, we want everybody's feedback in that. So if you know of anybody else, including Ms. Ashburn, we're happy to talk to them. We're happy to talk to those groups. And we're trying to do as much of that before the plan starts, so we know each other when the plan starts and there's a little more trust in the process.
That fine, thank you.
That's the question I had, Eric, was just what were some of the ideas you had for the South Side? So basically it's the park in MacArthur Park, the Churchwell Park, and the old American Crayon facility, possibility in turning that into a rec center. Any other ideas that you guys envision for the South Side?
We just want to make stronger connections. So Hayes Avenue is a great example where that corridor, you've got the Sandusky City Schools, you've got Firelands. There's a lot of talk about some big investments at KBI to bring some jobs back to that portion of the community. We want to make sure it all feels connected, and it's also not that far from downtown. So we want to feel that a kid on a bike or a kid walking or a person who's got a job at the hospital, we want to calm traffic, make it feel more vibrant, make it feel more connected. So I think you'll just see, so calming, making it feel safe to walk around, making it feel safe, period, with the work of community policing and the police department, investing in the housing, both rehabbing housing and new housing, plus those larger scale investments, and also programming there too, because we have the movie screen, we have the stage, and while we're gonna have specific programming at the pier, we do want to be able from time to time to bring those out into the neighborhoods. And so at Churchwell Park, what type of programming do they want to see there? And it could start as simple, I lived in Cleveland for a little over a decade before I came back to Sandusky. And there was a really hard hit neighborhood park called Fairview Park in the middle of our neighborhood, which was a neighborhood kind of in transition and eventually grew to be really strong through Ohio City. But they started with just a Wednesday night ice cream social, very low cost. We're talking fudgesicles, ice cream bars, popsicles that they would bring out, and they flyered and they marketed. And then in addition to that, they had really light programming. One night it might be balloon animals. One night it might be chalk drawing. One night it might be somebody with a guitar. But you watch, just because people knew every Wednesday night from Memorial Day to Labor Day, if they went to Fairview Park, there was going to be something going on. The playground was more vibrant. There were more kids. There were more families. It just became a place to be. And I bet they didn't spend more than $200 to $500 a week on that programming. And the community that it built in that neighborhood is really important. So while we talk about big investments in rec centers and everything else, what we want to hear from the community is, hey, what should we be throwing out there on a Wednesday night? And who wants to help volunteer and be a part of that, so we can really start to get that community going there as well.
Okay.
Mr. Woobster, this is Anthony Harris again. Listen, I have just received a text from one of the constituents of Sandusky, and they're talking about what are you planning on doing with downtown and things like that. And they popped up with a question of, what about sand volleyball courts downtown and at Lions Park, and having tournaments that would bring people to these parks and utilize these parks?
I love that idea. Our conceptual master plan for the Sandusky Bay Pavilion, or the former Surf's Up property, actually shows that type of recreation. And it's conceptual at this point, but as Battery Park gets done, we're hoping we can use some of the money that is triggered by that redevelopment to redo Sandusky Bay Pavilion. But we've looked at things like sand volleyball courts there where we have room for it, and it's got a beautiful waterfront view. So absolutely, we're hearing that. Right now we're slating it for the pavilion site. And what I don't know, and I can talk to our Rex, before we make that big investment in that park, is there a way for us to try it out, maybe with, limited expense, and see how people like it. But we know that would be successful, and we know it's a good idea. And we're trying to create that beach environment, even though we don't have a beach per se, and sand volleyball would be one great way to do it.
Okay. Mackenzie,
I'm texting them back now and letting them know.
Thank you.
Would we, do we have a hard stop, because it's 7 o'clock right now, and we can just move on with the agenda. Any more questions or any more conversations around the updates on the city plans? We just want to commend our city manager and our chief, Oliver, and I think there was one other person that did an editorial in the newspaper.
Commission President Brady.
President Brady, for your editorial, and there was some questions about what are the city's next steps regarding the race relations. The statement was very powerful and it was important. So I guess what are the next steps? Do we have any next step plans?
I can say very briefly and plainly that we've really talked about those next steps tonight.
I think so tonight, right?
We want to continue to diversify our employment base.
Mm-hmm.
We want to continue to use the CRC, the NAACP, and other partners to help us build deeper relationships. And we want to make sure we're targeting our business and housing programs and any pipeline to employment or investment to make sure that we're doing our best to target and potentially even heighten our investment in those groups that have been historically disenfranchised or held back from access to wealth and power over time.
And I think the grant opportunities that you mentioned also are some notable investments that and opportunities to, like as you said in your words, to help with some of the historical hurdles in terms of giving people a jump start. So we'll move on. If anyone has any additional questions about that, I think we had a very robust conversation, and I think it pretty much covered that. The updates on the fire chief vacancy.
So as of right now, we are planning on putting the fire chief position to fill it on a full-time basis in the 2022 budget. But we're going to begin planning on that budget now. Chief Green has done an incredible job on an interim basis because he's still on the shift. And so he's had to both respond and be a firefighter while also leading the department. And we've been blown away by him stepping into that role and the job he's done there. But we do know the community is going to want there to be a full-time person in that position. And our goal is to post that by the end of the year and to fill it in the first quarter of the end of the year as of now, subject to the city's budget process, which will start in the fall.
Okay.
Can I ask Chief Green, are you interested in that position? What are your plans? I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm interested in the position. I've been with the city for 31 years, and if I wasn't interested in the position, I wouldn't have taken the interim basis.
Yeah.
When they came to me, I was honored. For them to, when they came to me and asked me to fill the position, and I was honored to do it. So I will be applying for the position. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for that update. Plans, well, I'm stepping down, so you guys know I'll hand in my formal letter at the June 9th meeting. And so I guess what is the process for filling the vacancy?
Actually, if I can speak to that. So knowing that you were going to be taking a job in Delaware, Ms. Chairman, I proactively reached out to Eric and President Dick Brady of the City Commission. And in the fall, we had a really big recruitment effort to try to diversify our boards, which is one of the reasons we got Miss Esposito. And to your point, we were looking for gender and age and, race diversity and all of those things. So I sent to them the list of candidates that had applied that were not selected for this, and that is a city commission appointment. So I will just be awaiting from them, mostly the city commission and through Dick Brady, to reach out either to those candidates and see if they're still interested or to do a new search. But it is a city commission appointment, and once you're unable to voice your opinion on here, we'll quickly fill your position. And the good news is that we had a lot of applicants in the fall, so it was really good to see. And I thank you guys for your help on that.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mackenzie.
Well, Dr. K, we do have teams, and teams, they are universal. So I think you could actually do it.
I think you have to be a resident of the city of Sandusky. That was one of the requirements, right?
That is correct.
I'll be here for the June 9th meeting, and then I'll hand in my formal letter at that meeting. So the last is the Unity Through Love campaign. It continues. The booklet is done, and what I'm doing is I'll bring over some copies for each of you. And I spoke to Pastor Curtis Johnson, who will support us and help us launch it again in January. And so, Anthony, I will work with you and Curtis so that we can continue in making sure that the school district is involved with, since we have the template, we have the graphic supports there, and I'll try to, at least while Dr. Sanders is there, we'll be able to continue to do that. So the booklet is done. I'm going to do the prototype posters with using Dr. Sanders and Bridget Green Churchwell to just get those posters out in our schools and the booklets out to you guys. I've already made like 5 copies for each person, and then you'll have that template for next year to hopefully in January identify a date that you can launch the pledge and just build the momentum and maybe do something more. But it's just now an information piece and just the acknowledgement that we pledged to kind of work together. So I do have that at the printer right now.
I look forward to hitting the ground running on that. I'm going to have to get a new box of tissues because of our connection through the schools, your radio show, and the Divine Nine. So I'm going to be crying when you leave.
I'll still be on the radio. Don't worry. I'll still be around and I'll still be coming to visit. So Daryl's going to bring me back for the NAACP to speak.
Of course, of course.
Well, all right.
Of course.
All right, you guys. Well, I think that's our agenda for the day. I'm just so happy to meet you, Alex. It's a pleasure to meet you, and Taylor to see you again, and Blake and Jim, and so I look forward to our last meeting in January. And does anybody have any new business or that they want to put on the table? Mr. Murphy, President Murphy?
No, not right now. Thank you.
Okay, Blake?
Yes, through you, Chair. I just wanted to make a quick comment, just about our efforts to be more inclusive and to diversify things. It's not only, I guess in my experiences, it's not only important to just get things out there, on social media platforms and other, as you suggested, Doc, even radio platforms, but I think it's also important, or equally as important, to remain mindful of how we speak about Sandusky and the different inner workings, right? Because of course there is, and whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, there are narratives out there, and some of those narratives are, of course, that we are as inclusive as we should be or could be, right? So again, that being said, I just think it's important that we begin to just share with our counterparts, or just even in conversation with a stranger at a restaurant, like, hey, Sandusky is really making an effort to become more inclusive and diversify things across the board. And if you know anyone, I mean, just continue to pass that on and welcome other people. And so I know many of the conversations. I just had a conversation today with Chief Oliver, and obviously the conversations extend across the board, whether it's Mackenzie, whether it's Eric Woopser, gosh, you name it, anyone. But I know there very progressive conversations are taking place, and I really think that we're headed in trending in the right direction. So I'm confident more than ever that that'll continue, and I can't wait to see it all come to fruition. So thank you all for your continued efforts, and I look forward to continuing this.
Absolutely. I just think that this thing about pride, tradition, and excellence in this community, and I continue to say that there's a legacy of love that exists in this community, and that Sandusky is a very special place. And I don't say it because, I say it because that's my experience. As I continue to prepare for my transition, my son has said to me, I'm not leaving, I'm staying here. I'm like, oh, okay, well, we'll see how long you stay here, because I'm paying the rent until this date. And then, if you don't graduate from college and get a job, I'll have a room for you. But it is a special place in my experience here. And I think it is important, Blake, the narratives that we tell, right? And I think we can have those conversations with that healthy exchange, right? in terms of dealing with the elephants in the room. I think, but at the end of the day, what I always see in this community is a group of people that come back to the base. And that foundation is always that legacy of love, that ethos of care that continues to be pervasive in this community. And so at the end of the day, we are Blue Streak strong, you know, and we are a family. And I feel like a part of this family. And out of my 32 years of experience and as a public servant in education, I will tell you that Sandusky City Schools is the highlight of my experience, and it has reignited my belief in what we can do as educators because of my experiences here. So, you know, so thank you for reminding us of that, right? You know, the messages and the words that we say to people have a long-lasting effect on their perceptions, what they internalize, and what they believe. So thank you, Blake. Thank you. Okay, you guys, who wants to make a motion so we can adjourn?
I make a motion that the CRC meeting be adjourned.
Second.
Thank you, everybody. We are now adjourned. Do we need to take a vote, Mackenzie, on that?
No, we are done.
Okay, everybody, it was wonderful seeing you all.
Good evening, everybody.
I have a great evening.
Bye-bye.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Bye.
See you. Have a good
Bye.
evening,
Bring
everyone.
my
Bye,
son
everyone.
by to
Bye.
meet you. You
Bye-bye.
heard me, Jared? I'm gonna call you. Jared, I'll call you. I'm gonna bring my son by to meet you. All right, bye, everybody.
Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you soon. Go Browns. Draft a winner, Browns.
Yes,
Hey.
Good night.